My 6-year-old son just started school this summer, and it's a big change for him. It's not just about not playing all day long anymore, but actually now having to learn. And we already now had our first parent-teacher evening, which was an interesting experience. The debate was, should children his age already use an iPad to learn, or should the iPad be kept away from them until they reach, let's say, grade 3 or 4? That really was a very emotional discussion that we had that evening. And that's why in today's episode of Who Do You Want to Be, we are going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages in respect of our children's brain development when it comes to using AI. Here with me today, my wonderful Abha. Happy to see you. How are you?
I'm really good. And this is such an important topic that we need to discuss because as we enter this AI first world, it's getting so embedded into the lives of not only us, but also our children. And when you told me that there was a debate over whether year one should have an iPad, it shocked me as well because in our school, year ones don't get iPads. It's not even a question. Like my daughter is in year 3 and now she's getting an iPad, and I'm okay with that because she's much older and she understands a bit better. But I don't know if I want my 5-year-old to have an iPad at school. And I can totally understand why the parent teacher evening that you had was quite emotional in that respect. What was the decision?
Well, in the end, the school had already made the decision, which was that the children do have to have an iPad. However, our teacher was actually very open to our feedback, and she said she will limit the time that the kids have to use the iPad to 2 days a week. And even then, they wouldn't be using it continuously, but they would use it every now and then for specific tasks. So that was something that we were very welcoming of. At least we saw that she was understanding our problem and she was flexible to adapt to it, right? Which was really good. On the other hand, we were still concerned because when we gave our iPads to the school to put the school software on it and everything else, that also meant that in the end, we are handing over our control over the iPad to the school because the school administers it. We can't just, for example, delete any apps that the school wants to be on the iPad. And there is, for example, YouTube on the iPad. And it's not really restricted. So theoretically, our kids can just go in there and look for anything they want to watch on YouTube, which I actually find very worrisome because my son has no understanding of what the content can actually do to him and how it can influence the way how he is thinking and the way how he's learning. So that made us wonder, now when our children are exposed to everything on their iPad and they can use it freely, for example, in their break time, right? There's nobody who supervises them. How will they be using AI tools, for example? Do they even understand how to use it? And do they understand the implications that it has when they are, for example, asking ChatGPT to give them a certain answer?
I know it is worrying. In fact, I'm more worried about YouTube than I am about AI, to be honest with you. Like you said, however, I'd like to believe that the school has some control over when these younger children are using the iPads, like you said, and what they're accessing them for. I would like to believe that there's something in place for YouTube. I'm not sure how it works. But now when it comes to AI, I think a lot of schools still are trying to figure out the best way to introduce AI into the school. And I think there's bigger conversations happening about curriculum and what kind of AI curriculum is being integrated into the school and what does that mean? Who gets what kind of AI when, and what is that? Is it ChatGPT or is it another bespoke tool that's being made for the school? And I think a lot of schools, not just locally in the UAE, but globally, are still trying to work this all out. But what that also means is that it's not stopping the use of tools that we already have, like ChatGPT. Everybody has this tool at home, and families who have kids over the age of 7 or 8 are already engaging maybe with ChatGPT either through their parents or through conversation. And we spoke in different episodes about how, for example, my child is already using AI to help her learn math. So even though the schools are still figuring out how to introduce AI, we are seeing that AI is naturally coming into the lives of our children. So not only is it more screen time, which is a whole debate in itself, it's also the introduction of a completely new mode of learning, which is through AI. And the conversation we are really trying to have today is how do we work best with our children, let's say between the ages of 6 and 16, so that they can really use these tools to help them learn, but not destroy their natural growth way of, not destroy their natural ability to learn and grow.
That is so important. If we consider our children are coming to school now, in the case of my 6-year-old, so now for the first time in his life, he is in an environment that is teaching him how to approach problems, really, how to solve them, how to gain information from different sources, and how to be able to also find a solution to a problem all by himself. So he would know, okay, I need to understand this, then I need to understand that, and that will give me a solution. At the same time, of course, they need to basically start building a certain resilience, a growth mindset. So when there's something they did wrong, where they made a mistake, that they don't give up immediately, but they will try over and over again until, for example, they found the right solution, or until the task is solved to their expectations. So, what worries me about this part really is that even though there are amazing mechanisms now in AI and they enable our children to learn, it's still a very easy way for our kids to get the answers. They put in a question and they get the answers. So, for one, of course, it's a quick way to receive an answer. It also means, though, that the kids don't necessarily have to think for themselves. They just put it in, they get an answer, and given their brain development at that stage, they are not yet able to really critically receive that content. They take it at face value. This is what is given to them. Okay, then it must be correct. Because if you think about it, children in first grade have only been taught by their parents at home, of course, by older siblings, and by their kindergarten teachers. They always accepted authority and people to give them the knowledge that they don't have just yet. So now AI is coming in and is basically getting in line with all of those characters that our children are learning from. So they take this information exactly the way that it is given to them. Now, if we take into consideration that AI bots are also responding to the way how we speak with them and they are learning our communication style, that means that they might really tailor make the information to what they or what AI thinks we might be looking for, what we might be expecting. So my big question here really is, can AI enable our children to think outside the box? Will they learn to actually look for creative ways of solving a problem? Or will they just become very convenient learners that take things the way they are and they are not looking for, an extra leap to take, to walk the extra mile, as it's said?
I think that's why it's really important that when they use AI tools, they're using tools that are built for learning rather than just giving answers. So I think that's why ChatGPT is introduced a study and learn mode where you actually don't get the answers. It encourages the child to think, it doesn't give the answers. And a lot of these tools that are built for kids, like Khan Academy has an app for child learning called Khanmigo, which is nothing about giving a child answers, but just guiding the child to find answers themselves, rather than a parent or a teacher guiding them to get the answers. It's AI. But you're absolutely right. Whether it's ChatGPT, which is totally open and giving you answers, or a tool that's built for a child to learn, we don't know how it's been built and we don't know the biases that it's been built with. I would like to believe, like I know Khanmigo, for example, has been built with a very, very strong panel of educators and psychologists and academics. So the data set that it's been trained on to help children learn is vetted by academics, psychologists, and educators. And because Khanmigo is part of Khan Academy, which is a very well-respected global academy for learning for children, you can trust that. However, I don't know if you didn't use a tool like that, what kind of vetting you would have to do for the tool to ensure that it's the right tool for your child. Like synthesis, and we've spoken about this in a different episode, is also built for children. It doesn't give the children answers. It helps them learn math, for example. ChatGPT Study and Learn, again, I haven't tried it enough. It's also trying to maintain critical thinking, maintain creativity, maintain imagination by actually putting it back in the court of whoever is trying to learn with it. So this is a good sign. However, I do think we need to be very heavily involved in how our child is using these tools to learn, to think, to grow, to develop.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful that we're having these conversations, Abba, because if you wouldn't tell me about, for example, Khanmigo or about that learning mode in ChatGPT, I wouldn't know about it. So if you wouldn't help me also really to widen my horizon and to see what all is out there in terms of AI for our children, I would probably be a lot more opposed to it than I would have to. So just to put this into context, it just really means, especially for us as parents, we need to educate ourselves around AI so that we really understand how can we help our children get educated with AI. Because obviously, when we have a very limited view, just like my view at the beginning of this episode, I would give exactly that view to my children. So they would see it the same way that I did until somebody comes and shows them what all is out there as well. So here is where curiosity is so extremely important that we can also, for example, just take half an hour together after school and sit down and explore together. What opportunities do we have to find answers to our questions, for example? Let's not just go to one source, but let's try different platforms. Let's try different ideas. And this is, of course, how we can help our children to learn the best way possible with the support of AI. So I believe this is one of the key takeaways that we shouldn't just hand over our responsibility to teach our children to AI platforms, but that we use AI as a support for our goals that we have for our children, what they should be learning. And then, of course, ultimately, when our kids are growing, they will have their own goals of how they want to learn. And then again, we as parents are still in the responsibility of supporting them to find the best ways possible. And maybe there is a nice blend here of the good old-fashioned way of how I used to learn with, books and lexica and all of these things, and then using AI. The most important thing really is just that we are helping our kids brain development as well, to be able to think critically, not take everything at face value, being able to put things into context, seeing connections between different things, and then having a proper amount of information to be able to shape and form own opinions. I believe that would be of critical importance for our children as well, that they are able to shape and form their own opinions and be confident about those opinions.
I think if we are able to get our child to use AI and actually critique it, when I say that, I mean similar to what you're saying. If they get information from AI, they actually question it, whether it's true or not true, or what does that really mean, and who is this machine to be telling me these things? And they actually go outside of the realm of AI, which is huge, and try and find stuff for themselves. I think we would have done our job. It is going to be hard to do that simply because of the access that kids are going to have now to these tools. But it comes back to what you said. How can we be more engaged with our children and their learning so that when they choose to use a tool like AI, if they're using ChatGPT without study and learn mode, that they recognize that the answers that they get are biased, they're tailored to something specific, and that it's not enough to rely on it. While it can give you a head start, it's not enough. And how people who only use an AI tool without going outside of it and using their own brain are just not going to survive in the market. because everybody's outputs are going to be very similar. And I think this all comes back to us understanding how these tools work and then passing that down to our kids. So as we enter this AI first world, I think these are things that we repeat a lot in our episodes, but it really comes down to the core of how can we use artificial intelligence with human intelligence and get the best of both. So when you're thinking about your child's ability to learn and grow and what that means in this AI first world, let's keep an open mind and see how these tools can actually benefit our children and make sure that we understand them well enough so that we can help our children benefit from them while still keeping their growth and development intact, still helping them be able to think critically and think for themselves, because over-reliance on AI as our children grow is the worst thing that can happen to them. And we need to intervene now, we need to intervene soon, and for that we need to educate ourselves so that we do it in the right way. There is no escape from AI or from our kids using AI to learn, so let's make sure they learn it properly. So thank you for listening today. We hope you found that useful. And as we always pose in this podcast, all these conversations that we have lead us to just one question. In this AI first world, who do we want to be? And this is really what we're trying to put across to you in these episodes. So thank you again, and we will see you next week.